Hey everyone, it is RosinQuartz here, and welcome to my very first YouTube speed build. So today we are going to be creating an eco-cottage. And originally it was definitely not supposed to be an eco-cottage. It was supposed to be just sort of like actually a quick home, but it ended up taking me unintentionally a lot longer than I thought it would. So it originally was supposed to be a modern house, but it just sort of didn't end up that way, and and it ended up going with the style that I'm more interested in, and that is sort of just these really traditional, like sort of very green houses. And I'm not surprised that that happened. So right now we're working on the roofs, and this is kind of my thought process of like, oh, this is how a modern house should look. And I've never really built modern houses. A lot of the times I end up doing, again, like I said, these very traditional houses, not necessarily suburban though. And yeah, so I'm just sort of like fiddling around with just different kinds of roof trims. And yeah, right there you actually just saw a transition where I just finished, well, not just finished, but I have the sunroom there, and I was fiddling around with it for a really long time because I was trying to figure out what kind of windows that I liked. But there, I don't know, there's not. I'm not a big fan of a lot of the windows. I do like a lot of the windows that actually came with the Get Together expansion pack, and the Get Together expansion pack is literally the reason why I love building as much as I do right now, and that's the reason why I wanted to start sort of a YouTube channel, just because I have been really enjoying building, and yeah. Otherwise, before, when I was playing with just the base game, I just did all gameplay, like all the time, and I was never really interested in building. And before, when I actually, before I got The Sims 4, which is about maybe more than 6 months ago. It was actually quite soon. Before that, I was playing The Sims 3, and that was just one of the little expansion packs as well that I was playing with. I think it was just the Sims 3 pets, so I never really kind of had a really good idea of how the Sims really works. But I used to build all the time, and I really enjoyed it and had a lot of fun. But I don't know, when I started doing the Sims 4, I wasn't really interested in building. Again, I just because I just had like base game, and I got Get Together sort of as a treat, and it really really inspired building these houses and stuff like that. And it's a lot of the reasons why I wanted to build this one for you guys. And I think this build says a lot about excuse me. It's spring. I've got a little bit of allergies. But yeah, so right now I'm sort of just, I think I'm just throwing in just a bunch of lights and stuff like that, and just so I can sort of see. I usually do the insides last after I do the outside, because the outside is my favorite part of doing any sort of build. And and a lot of the time, I'm not gonna lie, I do these really like extravagant outsides, and I go kind of crazy with the landscaping, and I go crazy with sort of how big I make my builds. So when I end up going into my inside the house and start doing the furnishing, I go, oh, I never really like know what to do, and I think I did a pretty fairly good job with the inside for this one. I'm really proud of it. I think that it really inspires sort of that log cabin cottage camp kind of feel, and I think it really inspires a lot of nostalgia as well. And so I think this is where I finally figure out what kind of roof I want to go on there, and I think that looks really nice as well in the end. And yeah. So this house is very cream brown and green, and I threw in sort of this brick at first, thinking that that would really, really look nice, but in the end I decided to go with the Get Together stone, which I have a problem where I use it for every single one of my builds, and I don't mean to, but it just sort of happens just because I think it's so pretty. And compared to a lot of the other sort of stone wallpaper and stuff like that, I think this really looks the nicest. So right now I'm just kind of working with the foundation a little bit, and then I think I move on to the deck, the kind of the bottom there. And I fiddled around with this actually for quite a period of time because I didn't really exactly like how this sort of the left side of the house was looking. And so I believe I ended up moving the bump out just one to the left, and I expected to pick up the whole room and the roof, but it didn't really work out like that. So yeah, then I put down a bunch of sort of columns, and then I put down these base game windows in the front, and this is where I was trying out these like really modern sort of windows, and looking back I'm thinking like, why did I think that was a good idea at the time? And I'm so glad I didn't go with them in the end, and I think they look much better with the get-together windows. I do love a lot of the get-together windows, but one of the things that really bothers me is how in The Sims 4, not The Sims 4, The Sims 3, you can change you can change two things at once. For example, like with the beds, you can do the like headrests and then change the blankets and stuff like that. And you can't really do that with the windows. So the windows tint when you change the colors, and it's really frustrating because I don't want tinted windows. I'm not trying to make a nightclub. This is a home, and this is a little frustrating. And so I did realize that the windows sort of weren't properly spaced out, so I just decided to cover it with a tree and some more trees, and then I get a little distracted even more, and I just start throwing trees everywhere, just because I recently got myself the the outdoor retreat pack, and so I've been having a lot of fun playing with that and playing with a lot of the landscaping stuff, because landscaping is my favorite part about doing any sort of build. I love throwing plants everywhere, and I think it'd be really frustrating to play with a lot of my houses just because I go a little nuts with the landscaping, and a lot of the times it ends up coming into the house, and that can be really obnoxious, and you end up seeing me playing with that in the sunroom, I believe, and in a few other spaces. In the end though, like after the recording here, I end up fixing all of that and sort of moving things a little bit, excluding in the sunroom where the large leaf comes in, which I think you can already see already. And yeah, I end up playing testing this entire house, and I fixed a few things, and everything should work. If you have any problems, just feel free to like fix it yourself, which is kind of rude, but you guys are resourceful. I think I fixed like a few things in the kitchen, which the footage I actually lost for this. I was having a few troubles with like the stoves and getting the stove and the fridge to work, but I accidentally, because I use move objects, everything was sort of intersecting, and you couldn't open these up. And I do this cute little pergola over top of the deck, and I think it is so cute, and I think it looks so nice. And I wasn't sure if I wanted to put like sort of like greenery over top, but then I decided against it. I decided, you know what, I think it should just be the wood kind of thing, otherwise it'd be a little bit too much. And yeah, so I just sort of fix up where like wallpaper and stuff go missing, and I put in these sort of like, I guess like trim, just to cover up that sort of white ceiling peeking through. And I do fix on the other side of the deck where there is still white kind of peeking through, as well as later on somewhere in the build. And so now I just sort of work on sort of the decorations for the first floor deck, and I use again these outdoor retreat sort of stools and stuff like that, because when I think of cabins, I always think of how there's always so many wood furnishings, and I throw in these like I I keep stumbling over my words, but I throw in these sort of stumps just sort of around the lot, just because I think that makes it seem like a little bit more realistic. Even though I know they're seats, I think they suit better sort of more as decorations than anything. And if the Sims sit on it, they sit on it. So I changed the color of the fencing here and to sort of this more darker oak, and then I start working on top of the sunroom because I get distracted again, and I think I just had the idea of doing this sort of plants over top, and I think this looks really, really lovely in the end. And yeah, so yeah, I use a whole bunch of different kinds of plants. I throw in some of the get-together ones, and I think I throw in some outdoor retreats, and I think it looks really, really, really pretty in the end. I'm not used to doing voiceovers. I was trying to figure out something else to say, but yeah, all we're doing is just a little bit of landscaping, and there's not much to say about that, and I think it goes on for a significant period of time. And I gave myself no fixed budget with this build. I just sort of decided to just go with however much I wanted, and I think it turned out really lovely in the end. And yeah, the reason why I kind of wanted to make this sort of like more of a green cottage is sort of when I make builds, I always think about the Sims that would live in it, and like what sort of the history is around the house. And because it has this 1970s 1960s kind of vibe, I felt like elders Sims would live in it, and I feel like this would be a great house for multiple generations, because like most cottages, they have been in the family for multiple generations. And I felt like the grandparents, or the elder Sims I mean, that are in here, that bought this place, sort of, they must have been hippies. And they really liked having sort of these really, really like greenhouses, these sort of natural houses. And over the years, it's really been expanded, and it has some modern elements and has been updated in a few areas, but not so much in like others. And yeah, I try to put these like potted plants on the side of the build just so it makes it look like there's more green coming down, but I felt like the green was actually a darker shade than the plants on top, so I think I end up removing them all in the end. And I and I love these get-together sort of vines. I feel like they're absolutely beautiful, and I feel like with these windows too, they look absolutely gorgeous, with the wood peeking kind of through, and it makes it seem so much more intentional than it did sort of before. And I think it looks absolutely lovely, and I think that it makes sort of the house, like spruces up the house a lot more. And I found these balconies and I kind of got distracted, and I was like, ooh, these would look really nice. And so I actually use them more as a potted plant holder, and your Sims can get around these, so don't worry about that. And yeah, I think they're super pretty, and I throw these sort of shades over top of the windows, and I kind of change the color of the roof to make it a little bit darker, and yeah. And I throw in these little like peekaboo kind of windows in, just to make it seem like there's more light kind of coming in, although I didn't remove the ceilings inside the house, so it's not like angled roofs or anything like that. And yeah, so I guess I use a little bit more of these vines right here just to kind of spruce it up. I wish that you could make these actually smaller than they are, just so I could fit them underneath the window, so they kind of look not at their best as I think they could be. Oh, excuse me. So yeah, then I think I continue on with the front patio here, and I add a little bit of decorations, and I add a little bit of seating and stuff like that, and I use the hose just on the side there, because that little bump out ends up becoming the master bathroom, and I feel like it does in a way kind of make a lot of sense. And yeah, I move the seats sort of away, and I sort of throw this little patio seating in, and I think it looks super duper cute. And I was trying to find a chair that sort of matched with the patio really nicely from Perfect Patio, but then I didn't really find one that looked nice, so I used a different one. And then I throw in a barbecue because I feel like this would be a really great place to barbecue. especially for like adult Sims, when I really think about the space, I feel like the second patio is really more of an adult space than anywhere else. I feel like um, even though I intend for this place to be multi-generational, I feel like there's definitely adult spaces and there's kid spaces, and I think it would be really fun to see lots of different generations sort of living in these houses. The only sad thing is, though, is I only fit 2 bedrooms in. Um, you can definitely like fit in more bedrooms if you take out, for example, a sunroom, or you put in a basement or something like that, which I think is perfectly fine. And one of my thoughts with this is actually having using the outdoor retreat stuff and putting a whole bunch of little tents outside and stuff like that, and so people could tent outside, because they're all visiting grandma and all the grandchildren are here, and there's not a lot of beds for everyone, and that's why I was thinking of a lot of seating everywhere. And yeah, so I throw in a few more windows here, and yeah. I'm not really sure what I do from here, actually. So yeah, now, oh yeah, I start working on the sunroom here, and you just saw me remove those plants, and then I use the movie stuff pack, furniture and stuff like that as well, which I just got recently with the outdoor retreat pack. And I love the furniture that comes in, that this pack comes with, just because I think it's really, really cute, and I think it really adds a lot to spaces, just because they're really dynamic, they're really pretty, and I feel like they work with so many different kinds of aesthetics. Like, well, maybe not necessarily if you like black and white sort of aesthetics, then it might be a little bit, too much color. But I feel like there's so many different colors that you can use them in so many different ways. And for example, that long table, not the long table, but the long couch that I use, like, that's a much softer one versus kind of all the other ones where they look really busy. And so here you see me playing around with a tree, and I couldn't really get it so that the tree wasn't sticking in, and so I moved a little bit of everything to the left, but then I decided, you know what, I'm just going to keep everything where it is. So like I said before, I know that it bothers a lot of people, so I tried to cover it as best as I could, and I have play tested the build, so your Sims can work around there. And I put a bar in because I felt like it hid everything the best. And yeah, but if you use this build, feel free to just remove the tree if you don't like it. I put it in sort of more as a symmetry thing on the outside versus as sort of useful on for like when you're actually playing. Like, it's not actually that useful, so it can easily be removed. And you can always put something else in that corner. But otherwise, I think the bar actually does sort of fit, that you have sort of the adult Sims, they're up there and they're drinking, and the younger Sims are downstairs and they could be watching a movie or something like that. And, there's separate spaces, so it doesn't feel like everyone's crammed into this one area. And so I use these really, really cute lanterns, and I think they're absolutely adorable. And I end up using the movie hangout stuff candles, and I think they're absolutely cute. I wish the other candles that come with the base game actually light up as well, but sadly they don't. And so I use those, and I throw on these little, like, I don't know what they're called, like light wall things. I feel like I had a discussion with someone about what they were called before, but I don't really remember. I think they're like scones or something, like scoons, or I don't know. So I light up a little bit of the outside. I don't do a lot of night lighting too much with this house, and which I didn't really even think about it when I was sort of building. I just did those bits, and then I think I forgot about it, just because like I said before, I get easily distracted and I tend to forget about these things a lot. So yeah, I'm just doing some final touches on the outside. I'm not sure really what I do after this, but yeah, so I just put a little bit of greenery on the outside there, and yeah. But yeah, so I hope you guys are all having a really great day today, and And yeah, I was trying to fill up a little bit of time there, but I didn't really know what to say. Just because, like, again, this is such a long video. Just like how long this build was, it took me, I think, all the footage altogether, even the lost footage that sort of turns out really bad, and I end up completely removing it from this speed build. And altogether, I think it was about like 4 hours in total. And so I had to really cut it down. Okay, so we're finally on the inside of the build. So I start with sort of the upstairs because I didn't really want to start with downstairs yet. And so I'm working on just the bedroom right there, the guest bedroom, and there's this really awkward kind of angled corner, and I think I fill it out really nicely. In the end, I think it becomes a really actually like kind of useful spot. And I think I build this like sort of like a wall to divide the two spaces between the living room and what will be the kitchen and dining room. And it sort of reflects just the way that it parallels the sunroom, which I think is really cute. Because I think of this space a lot as a really like transitional sort of space, so lots of things are in progress, lots of things are old, and a lot of things are kind of new. For example, this the master bath right here, this is in my opinion, the most modern of all of this build, because a lot of this build is very traditional in style. And so, yeah, I had a little bit of trouble with this bathroom, just because I unintentionally blocked sort of the space, so it really made me have to kind of think about how to rework it, just because a lot of times when I make my builds, I don't actually play with them in the end, and I don't put them on the gallery or anything like that, just because, again, I don't play with them, right? So I never play test them and stuff like that. And I just noticed that I have that one light that's kind of sticking out of the room. I'm not sure if I actually fixed that in the end now that I think about it. But, oh, I do fix it. Good. And yeah, so I was having actually a little bit of trouble with the lighting just because it was really blue in there and I wasn't exactly sure why. So I tried to find something to really brighten it up, and it doesn't really fix the blueness from what I remember. But yeah, so I really want to use like really bright lights like those, just because I used them actually in another build and they looked really nice. But in the end, I decided against it, and I throw these mirrors up, and then I throw these kind of like really long lights as well. And then I realized, as you spin around right here, you'll see that it totally blocks your view, and then I go, oh crap, you can't play in here if it's blocking the way. So I sort of move the mirrors to that side, and I want to use those sinks at first because I liked how they were like those wood, has the wood on it, but I decided against it and use a more traditional sort of looking sink. And yeah, so I just play around with decorations after this, and again with the lighting. I wasn't really sure too much what to do with them, and yeah. And then I throw in sort of that old-time antique toilet just because I think it looks really cute, just with that little bit of like detail of the seat and the handles, just because I think it matches sort of the, there's just, it looks old, and I try to put these little cabinets at first, but then I decided against it because they did exactly what the mirror did, and I tried to find something to actually go over the tub on the other side of the wall, and I do mirrors at first, but then I was like, okay, that looks really weird, like, why would you want that in your bathroom, That would be kind of bizarre. You don't want to really see yourself from all these different angles. And, ooh, my microphone is a little bit falling here. Sorry if there's a lot of weird kind of sounds. This is actually, I think, the third time I recorded this, so I'm a little bit more comfortable, but I sort of forget what I talked about, just because I had a lot of audio issues, and I think that this was definitely a huge learning process for me doing this, just because I learned there's so much about like that a lot of the times I don't realize how long these builds take me, you know, and how that translates into footage and how that sort of all ends up working out. And yeah, and so I used actually a lot of mismatched furniture, and I think it all looks really, really cute. And just because I love the idea of having all this like sort of antique furniture and all these like mismatched furniture, just because, you know, your grandparents probably when they bought this place, they weren't thinking about, you know, having all this matching furniture, and they probably weren't thinking about having like this sort of perfect kind of IKEA space. And I try to find cute curtains that sort of like, well, grandma curtains, and I end up using these blue ones and keeping them sort of just that blue color because they match the bed. And you'll hear me say, call this house like a grandma space quite a bit, just because, you know, it has a lot of those grandma sort of touches to it. Like I said, the mismatched furniture, there's going to be photos everywhere, which you will see soon. I kind of go a little bit crazy, and I just throw photos everywhere, just because I really want to clutter the space up, and I love, 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 love clutter. I think it really changes the way that spaces work, you know? Oh, man. Oh, this is such a long build. And to think that there is actually missing footage from it. But I want to keep a lot of it in just because, you know, I feel like all those touches were important. I'm sure that you're probably already getting sick and tired of the upstairs. And I thought about making this a lot faster, but then I thought it looked a little bit too jarring. So I decided to just stick with the 4 times the speed. And I throw in a lot of plants just because, again, this is a very sort of cute little space, and I want to, you know, just make it seem that it's very lived in. And and I actually throw a box of tissues beside the bed, and I swear nothing weird is happening. You know, everyone has tissues next to the bed, unless it's just me. But I don't know. I'm sort of like weirdly sick all the time. Like right now I'm so stuffed up, and I have to go to work in like an hour and a half. And I'm just sniffling just all the time, and I actually use these absolutely beautiful hardwood floors. Every time I see them, I think, wow, they're just absolutely fantastic. I actually don't change the floor in the sunroom just because I want to keep it that sort of cement kind of look, just because I think it looks kind of nice actually as the leftover kind of cement color. And I throw in a lot of these sort of carpets and stuff like that just because I think, you know, it's probably a cabin, it's like a cottage, and whenever I think of cottages, I always think about how cold it is in the house all the time, and there's like no AC, and there's no like anything like that, or heater or anything, so you're always kind of like freezing your butt off. And then what I was thinking of in the guest space here is sort of, oh, there's a little bit of lag there, but I'm sort of thinking that like this is the space that hasn't been worked on at all, because, you know, the guest bedroom is only being probably used in the summertime, and so it's not really a big deal to renovate. And I end up using the lighter paneling, just because I think it looks really, really nice. I'm sure there's quite a bit of you that's going, oh, that's ugly, but I think against the really nice hardwood floor, that I think it just looks really nice. And I tested a few of these get-together wallpapers, but I thought they looked too shiny and sort of weird, so I don't go with them in the end. And I bring the stone in to make it still look like it's an addition or an add-on. And yeah, so I end up trying to find some nice wood that would kind of go well on the hallway rather than in the spare bedrooms. And I end up using this really nice cream color, and I think it looks fantastic. And I end up bringing it through the whole house as well, just because I didn't want to put paneling everywhere, because I was thinking, you know, like, again, this is a renovated space. They may have a lot of paneling in the 70s, but at least they got around to changing that. And I put in these like wooden posts everywhere just to make the space have a little bit more depth to it. And then, yeah, this is the master bath right here, and I put in this really, really dark get together wood as well, and I put the I think like white tiles on the other side, so it's not actually that suffocating, but I really wanted to have that dark oak somewhere. Just because whenever I think of like cottages, I always think about how there's like really, really dark wood everywhere, and it kind of feels a little suffocating, but it looks actually really nice. Or at least I love the cabin look. And so I play around with sort of how I want this room to work out, and then I kind of, as I was building it, I was thinking, oh, you know, you've got this things in front of the windows, and how awkward would it be if, you know, you had the mirror in a really awkward space. And that's also why I moved the mirror into the guest bedroom, just because if you have the mirror over the bathtub, it's probably super awkward to look into all the time. And I really like how there's like, I like adding like little annoyances and like little like awkward and weird things, and I feel like things that shouldn't really belong but actually like happen all the time in homes, just because, you know, sometimes you don't really think about those things as you're building. And then when you're actually decorating, you know, then you go, oh, how am I going to make this space work? And I'm not sure when I grabbed that mirror. Oh, there we go. I used the actually the outdoor retreat one because I thought that looked really cute. And yeah, then I tried to find some really nice lighting to kind of go in here, and I didn't really like a lot of it. I was looking for something that looked really old and kind of like ugly looking. And I ended up going with those ones right there. And even though I don't think they're ugly at all, I think they're actually really pretty. I think that they just look kind of like unique and kind of cool, and their electricals and like these really like odd spots, and and yeah, it looks really nice in the end. I don't think I actually changed the floor in the bathroom either, mostly just because I was thinking it looked really nice with the sunroom as well. And yeah. So I'm trying to find a seat actually for this little corner here, just because, just to have a little seating spot, just so, you know, to fill up space. And then I want to put a little table, like just so it could be a little reading nook or something like that, and I end up finding this really cute chest, and I think, oh man, that would look really nice in that little spot there. And yeah, then I throw in a whole bunch of plants and stuff like that, and I really like the idea of having all this like antique furniture and sort of this really like lived in look. I think it's really cute, and I think that's my aesthetic. You know, having really busy spaces and having this little like really lived in sort of traditional feel. And yeah, I throw in a whole bunch of plants a little bit more, and yeah, and then I think sometime later I end up going a little bit crazy with the photos. Yeah, and this is where, yeah, I start doing like photos just everywhere, all over the walls. And I start with the guest bedroom here, and then I think I cut it a little bit so that I could put a little bit of clutter everywhere. And yeah. And oh, I didn't cut this out actually. I cut it a little bit later. And so I tried to actually put some books on top of that shelf there, just because I was thinking if you're living in here, there's probably like your grandparents like threw a whole bunch of clutter in there, and it's like super uncomfortable and weird. And yeah. And I want to really use this laundry somewhere, because whenever I think of like guest bedrooms, you know, you're always living out of your suitcase. Like, even though you have dressers sort of everywhere, like you do have a dresser, I still feel like you'd be living in your suitcase, and that's what I used that little picnic thing for, just sort of to replicate the look of a suitcase. And then I tried to upsize that backpack to make it more of like a hiking backpack, but then it just sort of, it looked really bad. And it looked really stupid. So I decided to get rid of it, and then yeah, I put those down the hallway, and then I put a carpet down there, and then again I go crazy with the photos. And I repeat a lot of the really nice looking ones, just because I do like them, and I feel like, you know, it doesn't look that repeated. And you know how like grandma's house is usually, you know, there's always like so many different kinds of semi-similar photos too, so I feel like it wasn't really a big deal in the end anyway. So yeah. So yeah, we're working on this hallway, and we might be probably moving soon to downstairs, which is exciting. And yeah. Okay, there we go. I was wondering when we were gonna move downstairs. And so I really love, love, love this living room. I think it looks super duper cute. And I kind of was actually inspired by The Sims 3 actually with this. Because I don't know if anyone really, well, there's probably a lot of people who still play The Sims 3 all the time, but um, the fireplaces, they actually had little like bump outs and stuff like that, like things that like it totally like went through like your walls and stuff like that, and you'd always forget after you finish building. And so I kind of replicate that a little bit with the with this build, even though the fireplace doesn't technically make sense because it doesn't go through the upstairs bedroom all that much. Like it doesn't go out through it at all. But I do put a chimney on the roof, just sort of to make it simulate the idea of a chimney. And yeah. And so I really wanted to throw in a little bit of that lamp there, and I used some of the outdoor retreat um, chairs and stuff like that, and I think they look really nice in the end. And I sort of center everything around the fireplace, and I end up putting a TV over the fireplace just because I figured that would be the movie room, and yeah. And then yeah, I this is where I checked to see if I used actually the same uh, chair as I did upstairs, and I did. And I was like, okay, that's fine. It was probably like a matching set or something. And then I moved the TV up a little bit just to make it easier. And your Sims can all see the TV and stuff like that. So that's good. And then I throw like more grandma curtains everywhere. And then from here, I think I do just a little bit of clutter items, and then I throw bookcases up. And oh, this is where I see the I think it's like a jackalope or something, or it's like a moose, or I don't know what it is. And and I throw it on the chair there just to make it seem like this, it's not just an adult space, because I think it still does very much look like an adult space rather than a child space. And I do these little hints and touches kind of throughout the house, and in the part that you don't see, I actually throw these really colorful pictures over top of the computer place. Just because it makes it seem like this children's drawings and stuff like that, and that's probably where all the kids are anyways. And I put I put the computer room in the dining room just because, and the kitchen and stuff like that, just because I feel like, growing up, we always had the computer in our kitchen, and so when my mom was cooking, or my parents were watching TV or something like that, they could always see me, and they could always see what I was doing, just to make sure I wasn't, not doing anything appropriate, but being safe. And this was the early 2000s too, so there was sort of that really like sketched, like what's on the internet kind of concern as well. And so I play around with just putting little things in that corner there, and I really want to use that wood thing at first, because I was like, oh yeah, I forgot about this, and then I use it, and then I'm like, oh, that looks really bad. So we're not going to use that. And then I want to use that like shovel kind of, I don't know, tool set thing, but then I kind of want to use it in a build at some point, but I never do. I just don't know how to work with it yet, and one day I'll use that in a proper build. And I was trying to find something to go over top of the bookshelves, but then I decided against it. And so the room is looking very creepy. So I try to work on it a little bit and try to make it a little bit brighter, and I put a whole bunch of like hidden lights all over the place. Just to, again, brighten up the space and make it look less dark and creepy, and a little bit more bright and a little bit more open. And yeah, and then I put these little candles downstairs as well, just beside the fireplace, because probably not all the time they want to have the fireplace going, and there's cute little candle spots. And yeah, so this is where I was about to start doing the kitchen, and then I decided to go have dinner. And this is where my footage gets messed up, because I stopped my footage, and then I guess when I like restarted it, something messed up along the way, and I end up just filming like The Sims music for about 20 minutes. And so this is where I transition, and I try to give you a little tour of what the space looks. I did go back in and just changed a few details here and there that you don't actually see. But again, you're not really seeing anything anyway, so this is where I do really set with myself landscaping, just sort of as like, sort of like as an apology, and also just because I was mad that that footage got lost, and I just wanted to spruce up the space a little bit better. And I don't know, I was really sad when I was kind of doing this, just because I was really disappointed in, I guess not necessarily my own failure or anything like that, but it just, I wanted to make a proper build, and I already did like what about like 3.5 hours of footage, and losing that last little bit was kind of frustrating. But I threw in again a little bit of landscaping, and then I have pictures in the end, so you will be able to see the kitchen. And if you ever want to download the this build, you can always just go to the gallery, and then you can really check out how the space looks. But yeah, I have this like really big kitchen, and then a really like cute little open dining room, and then I've got sort of a computer stand, and I've got this really, really long table in the middle. I don't know if a sim can do prep work on it. I don't think they can, but I thought it looked really nice anyways. Whenever I think of like my dream kitchen, I always think of having a really, really long sort of table that you can do prep work instead of having like an island. And yeah, so I work on a little bit of the terrain painting, and I add in this little path, and I think it does look a lot better than how it looked before. And then I try to match this sort of landscape, this lot, I mean, just a little bit better. And yeah, I think I just add a little bit of like more landscaping in, like 2 more seconds of landscaping, and then and then we're going to be transitioning into the photos. So here's a nice long shot of the house in front of the lake, and I decided, to do no backyard because it's facing the lake and there's so much land in front of it, so it's all right. And so we're sort of peeking at the house here, and yeah, I think this build turned out really nice. I think it was definitely a huge learning process. I think looking back actually at this footage like several times already, I think there's things that I don't know if I'm starting to hate it or what, but I don't know. I think I'm noticing little changes that could be made and stuff like that. But I think overall, in the end, it's a really cute room, and I love this living room right here. And I just show you different shots of the room. And yeah, I think it looks super cute, and you're going to get a little peekaboo into the kitchen and just sort of what that looks like. And yeah, you can already see the photos of sort of the kids' drawings, and that's the dining room, and I use a little bit of mismatched furniture, and then I use again the long table and the hanging pots and pans, and I have like those little like antique sort of cabinets and stuff like that, just to make it seem a little bit more rustic. And yeah, this is the main floor bathroom, and yeah, there's not too much to this bathroom. I think I even forgot toilet paper, but that's alright. They throw some laundry in and stuff like that. And now we're going to be going upstairs, and we're going to be checking out the hallway, which I think is my favorite part of the build. I don't know, I think I said about something else in this house, but I love this house. I love just sort of this hallway and how normal and sort of real it kind of looks like. It looks like it's someone's actual hallway. And yeah, this is the upstairs bathroom, and looking back I can tell that I took these photos like at 2 in the morning. And so I tried to skillfully take photos without showing the greenery in. And yeah, it's the sunroom there. And yeah. So here is the guest bedroom, and this room is a little bit more plain. I feel like, again, like it wasn't meant to be decorated too much. I think it was supposed to be busy over the bed, but that long wall there, it's not supposed to be that busy. Versus the master bedroom here, which is very, very lived in. And yeah, I think it looks very cute in the end. And I actually want to replace a plant in that corner, but then I didn't. And so here is the master bath, and yeah, we're at the end here. So thank you for watching. This is RosinQuartz, and thank you for watching. Like and subscribe.